Hi, my name's Redman. I'm here to discuss with you a very serious situation. In 2007, I was doing inner city work with children. And as I was doing that work, I began to notice a trend, a real significant problem. A problem that I came to term as Youth Anarchistic Syndrome, YAS. And that's basically the sense of lawlessness and lack of community that's developed within the children that were in that population. Now, you would think that that was just an inner city problem, but I've noticed it's happening all across America, actually all across the world, because I've been to places like Iceland and Germany and France and England. And this problem is actually everywhere, and it has a lot to do with our pop culture and the circumstances of usually single-parent households where there's no real father figure there to help guide and mold a young boy into what it means to be a man, a successful adult, a successful human being, whether you're male or female. So a lot of the work that I was doing at the time in terms of research as well as in education, teaching, was regarding Albert Bandura's work in vicarious learning. Now, it became clear to me that since there's a lack of positive role models for these kids, what needed to have happen is a program needed to be developed that would be able to teach these kids these values and principles that they're not learning from anybody, from any human being. So I put together a program, and that program eventually was tested not only with kids within that inner city, but I later tested them with kids on tribal reservations. I tested them with kids in the country, in rural settings, urban settings, and I tested them in one-on-one settings where a mentor works with the child directly, whether that mentor is a parent or aunt, uncle, grandparent, caregiver, foster parent, whatever it is, even if it's like a life skills worker for a mental health facility or a child therapist like myself. These programs are designed to best work in a situation where there's an adult interacting with the child to go through this workbook. Now, the workbook has a lot of different lessons in it. And to make it interesting, I had to put it in a story form where children can follow along with the main character, identify with that main character, and through that identification, learn by seeing what that character goes through when that character makes a good choice or a bad choice. And then the program builds on itself using Vygotsky's scaffolding theory. You interpret one lesson through the prism of the previous lesson. And so we start with things like honesty. And then when we teach about what happens when you lie or where you tell the truth, the reputation you build from there. And then we go into respect and things like integrity. And in the end, you start going through the power of the apology, the power of forgiveness. And the story begins with Mark, a neutral character, in what seems to be a very difficult and precarious position. So the workbook, this is the workbook, and it's called Mark's Race. It's the Measure of a Man program. Now, if you go to the website, there's actually a corresponding mentor's manual that you can purchase. And this actually is just a workbook. And the mentor's manual talks about the science behind it, the research behind it, the principles behind it, and as well it also has a copy of the workbook in it. So when a child goes through this workbook, they learn all kinds of interesting things. They do some self-evaluations. They are able to answer questions so they can practically apply whatever it is that they're learning. Like, for example, let's flip to a section here. Here the child is learning about, of course I have to pick a very long section here. honesty. Okay, so as the child goes through the scenario that Mark is going through in terms of honesty, at one point he gets to make a good choice or a bad choice, and the child gets to determine what choice he would make or she would make in order to determine whether that's a good choice or a bad choice by Mark's example. So you have bad choices and you have good choices, and there's good choice, and there's interactive questions all throughout the workbook for kids to fill in, so they can practically apply whatever it is that they're learning from this program. Now, when the child successfully completes this program, at the back I have placed two things that are very good, that are frameable. The first thing is the Measure of a Man Pledge and Contract. And it talks about living up to these principles and what it means to be a man and to be a successful person. And on the last page is also something that is quite frameable, and that is a certificate that the mentor can fill out that shows that the child has successfully gone through the program. So this is a program that, again, I have proven to be successful in all these different modalities, whether it's one-on-one, in a group setting, individual. It's been able to show that children empirically begin to understand the concepts, and they learn through Mark's experience, because at the end they get to see what happens when Mark makes good choices and what happens when Mark makes bad choices and applies those choices to their self. So it's very important that children have these models to go after. In the future, there will be programs for Measure of a Woman, Measure of a Wife, a husband, again, to teach kids the basic fundamental principles, values of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a role in that person, even to the point of being the measure of a friend. Because a lot of people have a very grand misunderstanding of what it means to be a friend. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this little presentation. You can go to Rettman.com, RHETTMAN.com. You could also go to Rettman Publishing on Facebook, Rettman Publishing, and you can purchase these books there. You can also get them through houseofhopecounseling.com. All one word, House of Hope Counseling. Anyway, appreciate it. If you know somebody who needs this type of program, you know somebody who maybe it's your own child needs this type of program, be sure to get it. And also be sure to get that mentor's manual so you understand exactly what you're doing with the child in this program. Thank you again for watching. You all have a great day. Take care.
For there's more to what you're